Man, this Douglas Murray thing just will not go away. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I wanted to talk a moment about Konstantin Kisin and his recent video talking about the whole Dave Smith versus Douglas Murray debacle on Joe Rogan. And in my personal opinion, I think he really should have just kind of kept to himself on this one, because his video makes it very clear that he totally just doesn't understand the entire reason why people hated that debate in the first place. The problem was never the specific points that either side had to say about the issues that they discussed, okay? There are people on both sides who believe different things about the things that are going on in the world, and you're going to have the standard response. If they had both just talked about the issues and talked about what they thought about the issues, that particular episode of the Joe Rogan Experience would never have stood out as anything to pay attention to, okay? The reason why everybody got so infuriated, the reason why I was infuriated and I posted the video like 5 minutes after I watched it, was because Douglas Murray simply refused to actually say anything other than, "You're not an expert, so you should shut up." That's the only thing he ever said during he came up with a couple of points where he was kind of trying to engage the debate, but as soon as he got any pushback, he just went back to his, "Oh, well, you're not an expert. Oh, you get to waffle behind this, I'm not an expert, or I'm a comedian." A bunch of nonsense arguments that just nobody cares about. The reason why everybody hates that episode is not because Dave Smith believes certain things, that he's a conspiracy theorist, that he watches people that, maybe don't have the best track record of information, or this or that and the other thing. I don't even know. I don't know his sources. I don't really know Dave Smith that well. I didn't know Dave Smith before I even started watching that podcast. I saw Douglas Murray was on the thing, and I was like, oh, let me find out what's going on here. And then the entire episode I watched as Douglas Murray, instead of having a conversation and actually making some points, he immediately led off with, "Joe Rogan, you're having these people on your podcast, and you probably shouldn't do that because they don't know what they're talking about, and they're spreading false information." And it's like, didn't we just live through 4 years of this? I distinctly remember living through 4 years of the whole misinformation and malinformation and all these different things that, the previous administration and that side of the political spectrum decided that they were going to try to cram down our throats. And now here you are, less than a year later, doing the same thing. That's why people are mad. Okay? The problem that we have is that if you're going to get onto a podcast, if you're going to get into a conversation with somebody and you have a point to make, you actually need to make a point. You actually need to make a point that matters to people, because the moment you start coming out with, well, this person isn't an expert, so we shouldn't listen to him, it's like, I don't think so. I think experts should get more credibility than somebody who's just a layman, but as somebody who has spent a good portion of my life reading and learning about various different topics, I think I can speak intelligently on a fair number of different things without being an expert and still be saying correct stuff. So this is the problem that people have with the debate. It's the argument from authority from the perspective that only people who have expertise have a valid opinion on anything, and everyone else just needs to shut up and listen to what they say. That's the problem. The problem with Konstantin's video is that he was focused on the things that should have been said during the debate. He was trying to make the points that Douglas Murray should have made during the debate, or during the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. The problem is that nobody cares about that now. That's not what we're focused on. We don't care about the issues that were supposed to have been discussed during the podcast. What we care about is that you guys spent 4 years, 5 years, however long it was, fighting back against this whole, bad information this and bad information that, and who the hell are you to tell me what I can and can't say, and then you turn right around and try to do the same thing to somebody because they disagree with your point. That's hypocrisy, and that's why people are mad. I also want to address Konstantin supporting Douglas Murray's point about visiting places, because I have an issue with the idea that somehow visiting a place gives you such vastly superior information that everything you say it should be paid attention to, and everything that somebody says that hasn't been there should be completely ignored. And here's why. When somebody comes over to visit your house, do you leave it in whatever state it's in? Like most people, I think, clean up a little bit. They try to make their house presentable because they don't want somebody coming over. They don't want a visitor coming over, seeing the state of their house as it normally is and be completely embarrassed. Even if their house is actually pretty reasonable most of the time, they still take a little bit of time to clean up to make sure they're presenting the best possible image. If you are a well-known figure in the world and you visit a place, don't you think that they're going to do the same thing? Don't you think that they're going to take some time to make sure that they figure out where you're going to go and what you're going to see and make sure that those things are presented in the best possible light so that when you go back out into the world and start telling people about what you saw, they get a glowing review? And even for, people who don't have such a well-recognized face or don't have such a big following, if you go into another country and you think that people can't tell that you're not from there based off of the way you look or the way you behave or, any number of different factors, you're out of your mind. People in that situation, whether out of fear or out of wanting to make sure that because they believe in whatever government they believe in, they're going to behave and tell you things in a certain way because they don't want to get in trouble or they don't want you to go back and start talking crap about their government or whatever it is. You're going to get the sanitized version because you are not from there. So the only person I would ever say has a trump card of knowledge, assuming they're being genuine about it, are people who are from the place that you're talking about. Everyone else is a visitor and gets a distorted view of what's going on. So to try to get on and say, well, have you been there? Have you been there? I can't believe you're talking about this stuff and you haven't been there. Well, you haven't really been there either. Not really. Not in a way that allows you to give us an unbiased, reasonable opinion about what's going on because you got the sanitized version of what happened, of what's going on there. You should never, ever try to say that your experience, because you had an experience, that your opinion is somehow so much more superior than someone else's who has information and facts. If their facts are good, solid facts, then your experience doesn't matter. The facts are the facts, and that's it. You either have good information or you don't. Having been there or not having been there, it either is what it is or it's not what it is, or it's not what it's not. However you're going to say that. I'm not saying that going to places doesn't add to your credibility, but it's not such a vast leap in credibility that somebody who hasn't been there should just shut up and listen to what you have to say. Okay? That's such a disgusting thing to try to say to somebody. Okay? The argument from authority or the argument from experience or the argument from whatever should never be something that you rely on to have a debate with somebody. Your expertise and your experience and your ability to talk about things should be what you use to actually logically and factually defend your point. Because you should have the knowledge and experience to be able to put together a coherent argument that rebuts whatever the other person is trying to say. And if you are such an expert and you do have so much experience, you should have enough overwhelming evidence and knowledge and facts to be able to bury the other person who doesn't have it. The moment you walk in and you start just saying, well, I'm an expert and I know better than you and you should just listen to what I have to say, you've lost the argument from the start. There is no longer an argument. The other person is certainly not listening to you, and anybody who has half a brain in their head is not listening to you either, because now you're not talking to us. You're just trying to tell us you're better than us, and now I don't want to hear what you have to say. So as I said before in one of my previous videos, everybody should have the right and should be encouraged to say whatever it is that they think about, whatever it is that they want to talk about. There should never be any kind of suppression. There should never be any kind of, well, we don't like that, so let's make sure that that kind of gets hidden away. No, it needs to be exposed so that the experts and that the people who have a better idea can come in and squash it in a valid way. Because the moment you start pushing things off to the side because you don't like it, that's where it goes and festers and grows into a cancer that comes back to bite you later. Let people say what they're going to say. Your job as the expert is to come in and refute it with better information. We are past the point where you're able to just say, I know better, and that's it. There's way too much information available on the internet now for, like, that era is over. The era of just being able to say, I spent this amount of time studying this and I know better. No. You still have to defend it now. The easy way of just saying I have credentials and that's it, that ship has sailed. It's done. We're done with that. You will spend the rest of your life defending your points because you decided to become an expert and apparently you care enough about it to start talking to people about it. And if you're not willing to do that, You should probably just go find something else to do then. So that's what I wanted to say. I don't understand how you can watch a conversation like that and walk away with anything other than he didn't argue. There was no argument at all. And it just bugs me that he completely missed the point. He's a reasonably intelligent human being, and he should have seen that. He should have just seen that, and I don't understand how he couldn't. That's fine. It is what it is. This is my response to that, so that, you know, the few people who actually come across this video might have a better argument than what was posted there. So thanks for watching. Subscribe to help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Hit that like button to help the video spread out. And I will see you for the next one.